Your sock drawer is overflowing. Your work desk has stacks of papers that you promised to organize someday. Your closet is crammed with clothes you don't even remember owning. Sound familiar? I lived like this for years, convincing myself that the mess was just a sign of my busy life. Until one day, after searching for 15 minutes for my car keys that were right under a pile of mail, I realized I was wasting not just my time, but also my peace of mind. I'm not talking about living in a design showroom. I'm talking about simple, functional organization that makes a big difference in our daily lives. The Japanese way of organizing isn't about perfection. It's about practicality, about having only what you truly use and value, and about creating an environment where you can really live, not just store things. Today, I want to share with you how I transformed my cluttered home into an organized space without having to become a different person. These are simple methods that anyone can apply, even if you think organization isn't your strong suit. The difference in my daily life was so significant that I wonder why I didn't start earlier. My journey began when I realized I was spending money buying things I already had but couldn't find. I bought 3 pairs of scissors in 1 year because they always seemed to disappear. In reality, they were in different messy drawers around my house. I was shocked to discover how much money I was wasting due to disorganization. The first step I took was to stop accumulating things I didn't use. I started by asking each item, did I use this in the last year? If the answer was no, it was time to consider whether I really needed it. It was surprising to see how many things I kept just in case, or because I might need it someday. It wasn't easy at first. I had an emotional attachment to many items. That dress I wore only once 5 years ago, but it reminded me of a special day. The books I never read, but made me feel intellectual just by having them on the shelf. The dozens of pens scattered around the house, many of which didn't even work anymore. The secret I discovered is to start small. I chose one corner of the house each day, a drawer, a shelf, a small area. This helped avoid the overwhelming feeling of trying to organize everything at once. In each session, I sorted the items into 3 categories: keep, donate, throw away. No 4th category like decide later. That would just postpone the problem. I started with the kitchen. I opened all the cupboards and found 6 spatulas when I actually only used 2. I had cups I never used, dented pots I kept out of guilt for throwing them away, and plastic containers without lids. I was ruthless. If it wasn't being used or was broken, it wouldn't take up space. The bathroom was next. I discovered expired products, makeup I barely used, old and torn towels. Reducing to just what I actually used created so much space that I was surprised. Suddenly, opening the bathroom cabinet was no longer an experience of having things fall on my head. The bedroom was a bigger challenge. Clothes are particularly difficult to part with. I tried a simple technique. I turned all the hangers in the opposite direction. After wearing and washing an article of clothing, I would return the hanger to the normal direction. After 6 months, it became obvious which clothes I never wore. They were the ones whose hangers were still facing the original direction. Shoes were another difficult item. I had pairs stored away that hurt my feet, but they were expensive and I didn't want to admit I made a bad purchase. Others were worn out, but I kept them out of laziness to search for replacements. I kept only the comfortable and well-maintained ones and got rid of the rest. The living room was filled with mismatched decorations, old magazines, remote controls for devices I no longer owned, and too many cushions on the sofa. Simplifying this space had an immediate impact on my mood when I got home. Suddenly, entering my room was no longer a visual reminder of all the things I needed to organize. With fewer items, it became easier to create organizational systems that worked for me. I realized that part of my clutter stemmed from not having defined places for everything. When we don't know where to put something, we often end up putting it anywhere, and then we can't remember where it is. I created zones in my home. By the entrance, I added a small hook for keys and a spot for mail. In the kitchen, I organized items by how often I used them. The things I used daily were more accessible, while those for special occasions went on the higher shelves. In the office, I eliminated papers I no longer needed and created a simple filing system for the important ones. I discovered that 80% of the papers I kept were never consulted again. Really important documents were digitized and organized on my computer, with a backup in the cloud. My wardrobe got dividers for different types of clothing. Socks and underwear were folded in a way that allowed me to see everything at once, instead of digging through the drawer looking for a pair. Seasonal clothes were more accessible, while out-of-season items were stored elsewhere. An important discovery was about the horizontal surfaces in the house: tables, countertops, nightstands. They seemed to attract objects like magnets. I adopted the rule of keeping these surfaces clear, except for 1 or 2 decorative items or truly necessary items. This prevented the gradual accumulation that used to happen all the time. Another change I made was to drastically reduce what was visible. I stored cleaning products in cabinets instead of leaving them out in the open. Kitchen utensils that were rarely used went into drawers. Beauty products were put into the bathroom cabinet. This reduced visual clutter and made my home feel more spacious. I also learned the importance of finishing tasks. Washing dishes and leaving them to dry without putting them away is just moving the mess around. Washing clothes and not folding them creates those familiar piles on the bed or the washing machine. I started dedicating the few extra minutes needed to complete these tasks. My relationship with shopping changed completely. Before bringing something new into the house, I began to ask myself, where exactly is this going to go? If I couldn't answer immediately, it was a sign I probably didn't need the item. I also adopted the one in, one out rule. For every new item I acquired, something old had to go. The benefits of this transformation went far beyond the appearance of my home. I noticed I slept better in an organized bedroom. I prepared healthier meals in a functional kitchen. I worked with more focus in a tidy office. And surprisingly, I found I had more free time, as I wasn't spending precious minutes looking for lost items. One of the biggest changes was in my morning routine. Before, it was a stressful rush searching for clothes, keys, and documents. Now, with everything in its place, I can prepare for the day calmly and even have time for a relaxed cup of coffee. My friends began to notice the difference. Not because my home looked like a decor magazine, but because I seemed more at ease. One friend commented, "You look less overwhelmed." And it was true. The physical clutter was directly linked to a sense of mental clutter that I had been carrying around. I realized that we often use our possessions as anchors for memories. That travel souvenir, gifts from friends, items that belong to loved ones. I learned that memories are within us, not in things. I took photos of significant items that weren't practical to keep and allowed myself to create physical space without losing emotional reminders. Another important discovery was about the junk hideouts, those places where we quickly shove things when someone is coming over. The drawer in the kitchen crammed with random items, the hallway closet that barely closes, the box under the bed. Confronting those spaces was liberating. One fascinating aspect of Japanese minimalism is the idea that the home is not a storage unit, but a living space. I began to value empty space just as much as the objects themselves. An almost empty closet doesn't mean it needs to be filled. It represents freedom and possibility. Cleaning the house also became much simpler. With fewer items to move around, vacuuming or wiping surfaces takes half the time. All my cleaning products are neatly organized in one spot, so I no longer have to run around the house searching for what I need. Organization also had a positive financial impact. Beyond stopping the purchase of unnecessary duplicates, I started spending less on impulsive items. Shopping became a conscious decision, not just an automatic reaction. And when I really needed something, I already knew exactly what I wanted, avoiding wrong purchases. An important part of this process was involving my family. It doesn't help for just one person in the house to be committed to organization. We discussed the positive impact that a more organized environment would have for everyone. We established simple rules. Everyone is responsible for putting away what they use, common items have specific places, and we hold brief organization sessions together on weekends. Surprisingly, the kids adapted well. We created systems that made it easier for them to keep their spaces organized. Colorful bins for different categories of toys, hooks at their height for hanging backpacks and jackets, and low shelves where they could store and access their books. Another important point was creating maintenance routines. 5 minutes of daily organizing in each room prevents the buildup that used to take hours to resolve. I have a small list of daily tasks. Putting away mail as soon as it arrives, washing and storing dishes after each meal, and doing a quick, tidying up before bed. The entrance of my home received special attention. It serves as the transition point between the outside world and our personal space. I installed a small bench for taking off shoes, hooks for bags and coats, and a small tray for wallets and keys. This simple organization keeps everyday items from being scattered throughout the house. The kitchen also underwent a revolution. I reorganized the cabinets so that items used together are close to each other. Spices near the stove, prep utensils near the area where I chop food, and everyday dishware on easily accessible shelves. This made meal preparation much smoother. My pantry gained transparent containers for grains and flours, which not only organize the space, but also allows me to see when something is running low. I labeled everything, avoiding that moment of opening multiple jars trying to find what I need. The expiration dates of products are now visible, reducing waste. In the bathroom, I created kits for different needs. Daily use products stay on the counter in a small organizer, while items for specific occasions go into the cabinet. Products in use are at the front, while backups go to the back of the shelves, organized by category. The home workspace has gained special attention. I removed all unnecessary papers and items from the desk, leaving only the essentials for work. I created a filing system for different projects and a specific spot for items needing immediate action, preventing them from mixing with other documents. The laundry room, once a chaotic place, has become functional. Each type of clothing now has its own basket, cleaning products have been organized on shelves, and I created a small area to fold clothes right out of the dryer, avoiding those stacks of clean laundry yet to be put away that were once a constant. One technique that helped me a lot was digitization. Manuals for appliances, recipes, important documents, old photos, everything has been digitized and organized into folders on my computer with backups. This freed up physical space and made information much more accessible. Organization also extended to my computer and smartphone. Files are organized into logical folders. Apps that I actually use are easily accessible, and emails are responded to or archived promptly. Digital organization has as much of an impact on our well-being as physical organization does. Something many don't realize is how lighting influences our perception of organization. I eliminated dark corners of the house where things tended to accumulate. A well-lit space not only looks cleaner, but also encourages us to keep it that way. Colors also make a difference. I reduced the variety of colors in the spaces, opting for more neutral and cohesive palettes. This created a sense of visual order that complements the physical organization of items. It doesn't mean a bland home. It means a neutral base with strategic pops of color. Another important change was separating items by category when I organized them. Instead of tidying up an entire room, I organized by types of items. All the books in the house, then all the clothes, then all the papers, and so on. This gave me a real sense of how much I had of each thing and made it easier to decide what to keep. I had to confront my tendency to hold on to broken things to fix someday. I was honest with myself. If I hadn't repaired them in the past few months, I probably never would. This freed up a lot of space and reduced the feeling of pending tasks that loomed over me. Vertical storage was a valuable discovery. Storing items vertically instead of stacked allows me to see everything at once and grab what I need without dismantling the entire pile. I applied this to clothes in drawers, documents in folders, and even kitchen utensils. I also set limits for collections. It's easy to let hobbies turn into clutter. Books, records, craft tools, sports equipment. I designated a specific space for each collection and committed to not exceeding that limit. If something new comes in, something old has to go. One strategy that worked well for me was the quarantine box. Items I wasn't sure whether to keep or not went into a closed box with the date. If after 3 months I hadn't missed them or even remembered what was inside, it was a clear sign that I could let go of those items. I also realized that not everything has to be perfect. Folding clothes neatly is great, but what's important is that they are organized in a way that works for me. Store-bought drawer organizers are helpful, but makeshift dividers made from cut-up shoeboxes work too. The focus should be on the result, not strict rules. The idea that every object should have a home has been transformative. When something doesn't have a designated place to be stored, it ends up scattered everywhere. I've started to define specific locations for each category of items, and I commit to always returning them home after use. Another helpful practice has been creating activity zones in the house. The reading area has everything I need for that activity: books, proper lighting, and a comfortable chair. The crafting area has its own organized tools and materials. This prevents objects from migrating around the house. One of the biggest benefits has been the reduction of stress. Walking into an organized home at the end of a tiring day, rather than being greeted by clutter and unfinished tasks, makes all the difference in my level of relaxation. My home has become a refuge, no longer an additional source of stress. Japanese minimalism doesn't mean living with practically nothing. It means living with what truly matters to you, with what brings joy and usefulness to your life. It's about quality, not quantity. It's about intention, not deprivation. If you're thinking about starting a similar journey, my advice is, start small. Choose a single space to organize today. It might be just a drawer or a shelf. The satisfaction of completing this small task will motivate you to continue. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your organized home be. Remember that this is an ongoing journey, not a final destination. There will be days when clutter returns. The important thing is to have simple systems in place to deal with it before it accumulates again. 5 minutes of daily organization is worth more than 5 hours monthly. You don't need to follow rigid rules or have a picture-perfect home from magazines. Create a system that works for you and your family. True organization is the kind that is maintained in daily life, not the one that looks pretty in photos but is impossible to sustain in reality. The transformation of my home from a cluttered space to an organized and serene environment didn't happen overnight. It was a journey of small daily decisions, establishing new habits and rethinking my relationship with my belongings. But the benefits, for my time, my wallet, and my well-being, were worth every effort. So, if you're also tired of living in an environment that feels more like a storage unit than a home, know that change is possible. You don't need to be naturally organized or have special skills. You just need to be willing to start, one small space at a time, and to be patient with yourself throughout the process. The organized home I have today isn't perfect, but it is functional. It's not a showroom, but a place where I can live without the constant weight of clutter. And believe me, if I could do it, so can you. Your future self, living in a harmonious and organized space, will thank you for the effort you make today. Share this blessed video so it can touch and help others like you and me. Don't forget to click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of our faith community. If you want to support our channel a bit more, consider becoming a member. I'm leaving here 2 more videos for you to continue your journey. Thank you, and God bless you all. See you next time.